Last week on Battle of the Ports, we took a look at a true Konami classic, Gradius 2. This week we are back with an even older Konami classic from March 1983. This is Gyruss. This could be called a Galaga clone, but it is far more than that. For a start, the graphics are displayed using one-point perspective, with the vanishing point in the centre of the screen. The player's ship is restricted to the circumference around the edge of the screen and may move in either direction along this path. All shots from the player converge at the vanishing point. The majority of enemies are spaceships, which must be destroyed to complete a level. They appear either from the centre of the screen or from one of the edges, moving in a swirling pattern. They can shoot the player's ship or destroy it by contact. As well as ships, there are also several other types of enemies: satellites, asteroids, and laser beam generators. The areas of each zone consist of 3 sections, each followed by a bonus round. Each zone is portrayed as a trip towards a planet. You start off on your way to Neptune, followed by Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and finally Earth. Complete the Earth's bonus stage and back to Neptune we go, but now much more difficult. A special mention must go to the music. Not only does it feature a cool electronic up-tempo arrangement of J.S. Bach's Toccata and Fuga in D minor, but it's also in stereo, something quite rare back then. In 1984, a whole host of ports came to Western systems. Let's start off with the Atari 2600 port. Man, this really surprised me. I expected this to have the typical Atari boom sound, but no, we actually get the arcade music. Sure, it's a lot more simple, but still really cool to have it here. The game, as to be expected, looks rather basic, but it plays quite well. It's a lot easier than the arcade due to the massive drop in on-screen action, but still, what is here can be good fun. Next up is the Atari 5200 release. This one crams in so much more and as a result gives a much fuller arcade experience. All that extra goodness on the screen though does result in some choppy frame rates at times, but nothing that will take away the pleasure of playing. And as is tradition, there was an Atari 8-bit line of home computers port that's basically the 5200 version. Just like the 5200 release, this features the improved multi-channel audio, which is a big step up from the 2600. Not to let Atari have all the fun, Parker Brothers also released a Commodore 64 port, but I have mixed feelings about this one. On one hand, the graphics are far more detailed than Atari's machines, but on the other, the sprites flicker like crazy, which is really distracting. I lost count of the amount of times I died because of this. Back to the good points. The SID rendition of the soundtrack is good, as are the sound effects. If only the sprite flicker wasn't an issue. And here we go with the Colecovision port. I like to think of this as the happy in-between of the Commodore 64 and the Atari 5200 version. We have graphics that are not as blocky or basic as the 5200, but also not as detailed as the C64. We get more on screen like the C64, but without any flicker like the 5200. Then we have the audio, which again is a nice in-between of the C64 and 5200. If I had to choose one of the ports seen so far, this would be the one. In 1988, we saw the first Japanese port coming to Nintendo's 8-bit console. This version is significantly better looking than the arcade machine, and also includes a few differences to the gameplay. For a start, you are now equipped with a super phaser attack, which kinda acts like a bomb. Then there is the introduction of the center screen enemies, and a boss battle at the end of each planet zone. Also, we get a few extra introductory screens, and 39 stages over the arcade's 24. There was also a Famicom Disk System port. This is basically the same as the NES version, but now features a different title screen, much better ending, and different opening story graphics. The audio is also improved by making great use of the extra wavetable channel in the FDS for its soundtrack, using its lead while the onboard pulse channels are used to create an echo effect. As the NES lacks this extra hardware, much like Konami's other games ported from the FDS, the NES version uses 2 pulse channels instead for its lead. Konami Arcade Classics, which we also featured on the Circus Charlie video, also contained Gyruss. This PlayStation collection first saw a release in Japan on May 2nd, 2002. This is the last home version of the game, not to be an emulation of an existing version. But it was not the last true port to be released. As for this port, well, it's practically arcade perfect. The last non-pre-existing emulated port to be released was the Java-based mobile version, which saw a release on December 1st, 2004, on Japan's V-Appli service. It soon followed on the Docomo iAppli service and what was then AU's EZ-Appli service. This version right here though is the Chinese version. No idea when this got a release. It also seems to be broken because no matter what option is chosen from the option screen, there is no sound. No matter. As you can see, this is based upon the Famicom Disk System release, and as a result, it plays rather well. The auto rapid fire is a big help. And let's take a look at all those versions of Gyruss running side by side.